Are you ready to be scared to death? Join me, Scary Larry Dwyer, and the boys from Pint O Comics as we take you on a terrifying journey through Scary Larry's Pint O Horrors.
All right, we are back. It is one of the last death rattles of Scary Larry's Pint O Horrors. As you know, the whole O thing is gone from the show. Just the pint now. I'm John.
I'm Larry.
And I am Stu.
And we are here to talk in week 2 of what we're calling Scary Lair May. Oh, man, am I a fucking clever fuck. We're doing four episodes in a row of the Pint O Horrors. The last one's of season 2. When this one ends, we're going to shift over to a new name. We're calling it Scary Larry's House of Horrors, and we will be doing a whole bunch of new cool stuff. But today we're talking about something very interesting. Last week we talked about Rubber, which on the show we talked about, is this a horror movie? Because there's a lot of heads exploding. Or is this an art film? Because it's about a tire that gains sentience and it's kind of weird.
People watching a movie about a tire that gains sentience.
Yeah, it's odd. So today...
Great. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. On week 3, I'm sorry, I think I said week 2 before. On week 3, which is today, we're talking about One Cut of the Dead, which when you get right down to it, is it even a horror movie at all? Well, that's what makes the genre so fantastic, is that there's all kinds of qualifiers and all kinds of little different combos, horror comedies, all that good stuff. So we're going to talk about One Cut of the Dead. First things first, last week on the Rubber episode at the end, I mistakenly originally said that this was a Korean film, and then we corrected me, and Larry said Chinese, and then we had to stop. This is, boy, this all comes across very racist. It is a Japanese film. It's a Japanese film.
Should have just said Asian.
Should have said Asian.
Yep.
And not Oriental. I did not know this until about 10 years ago.
No, don't do that.
You can't say Oriental.
No, listen. Oriental, though, when it was a thing, never referred to a person. It referred to objects. So if you were talking, I didn't, like, when I was a little kid, I didn't get that. So I might have said, like, oh, people of Asian descent were Orientals. And then one time, like, and I was older, and I didn't use that as a term, but it was just one of those interesting things I learned, is that Oriental referred to, a vase or something like that.
Or
a rug. Yeah, I've always heard, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So anyways, So One Cut of the Dead, which the original Japanese title, I'm not going to try to say, but the actual original Japanese title loosely translates to Don't Stop the Camera. So that's the actual kind of title of the movie. This thing came out in Tokyo on a 6-night run in an 84-seat theater on November 4th, 2017. September 24th, 2019, it was released on Shudder. If you don't have Shudder, you should definitely check it out. Stu, you got Shudder, right?
Yep, I have
Larry, you got Shudder.
My article on my website today, all about Shudder.
I've had Shudder since it came out.
I've got Shudder. So we're 3 guys, not sponsored by Shudder, by the way, that are telling you, if you're into horror, if you're into a lot of different cool genres, and they don't just do movies, they actually have, I've never delved into it, but they have documentaries, which I've checked out. They have TV shows. Am I right? Do they have a podcast section? Like,
they do.
Yeah.
They have their own podcasts. I don't know who runs them, but I think they're semi-famous people who do the podcasts. But yeah,
Eli Roth, maybe
I'm sure, because he does he does something on there. There's a lot of programming on Shudder. I remember when it first launched and there was like 5 movies to choose from. Like now there's tons and tons of different programming. They've gotten into buying their own films, so they go out there and they shop for new films on the block, and they release them on Shudder first. And there's tons, like you said, documentaries. There's series like Cursed Films is one of them, where they talk about movies like Poltergeist and The Exorcist that supposedly had some cursed backstory. There's a lot. There's really and like you said, it's not all. Yeah, 95% is horror, but there's some exploitation. There's some black exploitation on there. You'll find some other stuff. Mostly horror, but all genre film. There's some good stuff. The new Creepshow series.
Yeah.
Done by Greg Nicotero on there. Some of them are really good. I've heard the second season was better. I still haven't gotten around to see it, but there's a lot of stuff on there, man. It's definitely worth the. I don't even know what it costs. What is it, like $5-6 a month?
I thought it was like $5 a month. At least it was whenever we started getting it. I don't know if the price is increased.
Yeah, right now it's probably $27 a month. I have no idea, but it was like around $5 last I checked. It's worth it. Joe Bob stuff. People are back into Joe Bob now.
And it's crazy all the international stuff they have on there that, like, otherwise you would not have nearly as much chance to get exposed to.
Right. This being one right here. I mean, this this is considered a Shudder exclusive or a Shudder original. Obviously, that's how it got distributed in the U.S. So, pardon us. I'm going to go through a little bit of the writer-director stuff. Pardon us, as well as Larry, when we do the cast and everything. We're going to do our best with pronouncing these names. The writer and director of this film, Shinichiro Ueda.
Not bad. I think that's pretty good.
I think that's pretty good. He did a couple movies. Special Actors is one of them, and then this one I gotta seek out. It's called Rice and Boobs. Yeah, Rice and Boobs, and the actual the poster is like a drawing of a bowl of rice, so a very mound-like bowl of rice, and then a boob right above it, and I think it said something like the question of the universe: if you could only have one for the rest of your life, would it be rice or boobs? And I thought, I know nothing more about this movie other than that's intriguing the hell out of me. So yeah, so here's a very interesting thing that might sully your idea if you like this movie a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know where this is going.
So when you talk about the writing of it, because Ueda wrote it, you also have to acknowledge a gentleman named Ryuichi Wada. Okay, so he wrote a stage play called Ghost in the Box. He was going to sue the makers of One Cut of the Dead for plagiarism, saying that it was heavily influenced and or taken from his stage play. So Wada agreed not to sue after, probably maybe a little bit of money passed hands, who knows. But he's credited in an acknowledgement in the credits as the movie being inspired by the play. So that's interesting.
And I think Ueda was always pretty upfront about that. He always said he saw the play, he liked the play, and he had, he got the idea from the play. I don't think he ever really hid that, but he didn't credit it until the guy who did Ghost in the Box came out and was like, hey.
Yeah. Ghost in the Box apparently played from 2011 to 2014 in Japan. And yeah, Ueda he did say this was an absolute inspiration, but I guess Wada was thinking more like this is a little bit of a ripoff, but they came to an agreement. So if you actually look at the writing credits, he's kind of credited as well, inspired by, or, based on, I guess is how they put it. Some of the more interesting things about this, the initial, I read this wrong 2 times. This was a $25,000 American budget.
Mm-hmm.
In yen, that's $3 million.
Yes.
So I thought, wow, $25K, it makes sense. When I read $3 million initially, I'm like, $3 million for this movie? Nope. $25K, 3 million yen. It made a ton of money. I think Larry has the amount it made there on the sheet. What did this thing make?
About $30 million.
$30 million.
Worldwide.
That's
opening weekend, like you said, opened very small. Opening weekend was like $6,000. But when all said and done, $30 million.
They did some inventive marketing. If at the theater, if you went dressed as a zombie, you got in for free. They wanted people to kind of like really grab onto this thing. It was filmed in Mito, Ibaraki, Japan. That's where the water filtration plant is, where 95% of the story takes place. And then the stuff that takes place in Act 2, which is like the home life of, and we'll get to the acts in a second, was filmed actually in Tokyo. The director got involved with this thing called the Enbu Seminar, which is a filmmaking workshop in Tokyo. 2-month class, and essentially all the actors and actresses in this movie were involved in this workshop. So they actually paid to be in this workshop. They brought Ueda in. He wrote his script, and they developed this movie for 2 months as like almost like, like you're thinking of like an elective class or a college course. And then at the end of it, they filmed it. So it's definitely homegrown. It's definitely very interesting. But let's get into it. Let's get into the nuts and bolts. Larry, let's go through some of the cast of this thing.
Yep. Oh, God. Please forgive me, everybody. I'm going to do the best I can. Our main character is the director, Higurashi, who is played by Takayuki Hamatsu. That one's not bad.
No, I love this guy.
That one pretty good. Yeah,
I love this guy.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
Great. Very, very nice. Not at first, though. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about the different faces of the director. And then we have the lovely Chinatsu, who is played by Yuzuki Akiyama. She is a pop star who has signed on to be in this film that they're making.
I can't vomit on her.
As the female lead, yes, she's got rules. She's very high maintenance. She's definitely a high maintenance type of girl. She has a lot of rules, and one of them is that you cannot vomit on her in the movie. Even fake vomit, they won't stand for it. And then we have my favorite character now, who is the wife of the director in real life, played by Harumi Shuhama. She is, like I said, the wife of the director, who ends up starring in the movie by mistake. She is a retired actress who they say stopped acting because she got too into her characters, and we learn that is very true as the movie goes on. Then we have the male star, Ko, played by Kazuaki Nagaya. I think I'm doing okay. I gotta say.
No, you're good. You're good. You're doing well.
I'm doing all right. He is, I'd say he's sort of a sex symbol. In, like a teen idol, I guess, in Japan. And the director's daughter is definitely in love with him, and she becomes very interested in the director's work when she realizes that he's part of the cast. We've got some others. Manobu Hosada, played by Manobu Hosoi. Mao, played by Mao. And let's just do one more. Shinsuke Yamakoshi, just because I'm having a good time saying these names.
Yeah.
Played by Shuntaro Yamazaki.
That was very good.
Thank you. I'm not even going to try. All right, we'll do one more. Shinichiro Furusawa, played by Shinichiro Osawa.
Was that the same first name with a different? You put a different inflection on
mark.
it.
Yeah, a little different mark. So I changed it up a little bit.
All right.
I don't know if you caught that, but I saw the mark, so I changed it up.
That'd be like saying and
I don't know if I did it properly.
So it sounds like, if it was introducing you in a movie, it'd be like, and Larry Dwyer is playing Larry Dwyer. Yeah, that's kind of what you did there.
Kind of what I did. Yeah. So, there's more cast, but I'm not going to subject anybody.
No, we're good. We're good.
To listen to me talk about the rest of them, but I think that's about that's the main cast.
Who's the? Tell me who the old lady who runs the studio was.
God, I don't know, but
she was great.
She was great, but I couldn't.
So much energy.
She had so much energy, and for some reason, she reminded me of the little woman from The Incredibles that made their costumes.
Yeah,
Edna Mode. Yeah,
yeah. I remember the first time I saw this, I was like, "Oh my god, that's the little woman from The Incredibles."
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, she was great. She was very high energy producer. She's definitely one of the people in charge of the filming company that hires the director to make this short film.
She is not somebody that you look at and think like she's the head of the zombie network.
Yeah, definitely not.
Do you think
you get the feeling that she knows jack shit about zombies or horror? She just works for the company that owns the zombie network, and it's her job to get this thing done, basically.
Do you guys think that, because obviously Japan is known for their love of pop culture and their deep love of pop culture. So do you think that the idea of a zombie network is something that they would probably really do in Japan, or it was like a commentary on, holy shit, we're like at the end, like year 12 or 13 of like everything being about fucking zombies, and it's kind of a joke, you know? Because I mean, really, since The Walking Dead in 2010, you know, and even a little bit before that, it's the predominant horror genre that we've been kind of getting pushed down our throat for years, and some great, some not so great. But do you think that like that's something that would really take foot in Japan, or do you think that's a joke where they're like there'd be a whole network for zombies?
I took it, whenever I watched this movie, I took it as it's essentially a horror network. It's essentially Shudder. They just call it that because zombie is such a big term in like the horror universe.
Right.
Like, I don't assume that every single program on this zombie network is about zombies. I just assume like they did that as marketing because yes, people like zombies. So it's kind of like, you know, a mishmash of your two options there. Like, it's the marketing by saying, oh, zombies, people like that, but it's actually just everything, and it could very well be a real thing.
All right, so let's talk about the three, I guess, sections of this movie. All right, yep. And there's three of us, so why don't we just each go through it and kind of just describe what's happening? Larry, why don't you start with the first section? You know, sure. just give us an overview, and then we'll go to Stu. I'll go to the third, and then we'll kind of just talk about the movie as a whole.
The first section is the movie. It's 30-something minutes. It's the main actor, Chinatsu, and Ko. The two of them having a moment. Ko is a zombie. Chinatsu is, you know, the final girl. And she's trying to hold him off, but she's upset because that obviously boyfriend, girlfriend. And she's like, don't look at me. Don't you remember me? Don't you remember me? And he's trying to kill her because he's a zombie. She's trying to, you know, cry and then you realize, because the director busts in, that she's acting. And the director's like, what are you doing? You're not doing good enough. So you're like, okay, so I'm watching this film about a director making a zombie movie.
A movie inside of a movie.
A movie inside of a movie. And this director is insane. He's screaming at her. He's smacking the wall. He's pushing the male co-star out of the way. He's just yelling at everybody. Really abrasive type director. Then he gets out of the scene, and what's great while you're watching this is, even though you're like, okay, I know what's going on, we're watching a movie inside of a movie, but then there's like little clues that there's something else going on. There's a noise off camera, and they spend way too much time looking at it, and you can tell that they're not reacting as if this was planned. Then real zombies, wink, wink, bust in, start attacking the actors who thought that they were making a zombie movie. Now they're being attacked by actual zombies, you know, people that were on the set with them but are now zombified. And it's really just 30-something minutes of insanity. People running, camera dropping, blood flying. And again, there's hints here and there that there's more going on behind the camera that we can't see, but you're like, maybe this is just a poorly made, you know, shitty independent film. And I'm talking for myself because, you know, I watched a screener of this when 2019 I got a screener of it, and I watched it on my computer, and I'm like, okay, I like these characters. They're not good actors. I'm not sure what's going on. Why is all this shit off camera, like, making its way in? People are reacting poorly. And then to get to the end of my section here, the movie ends at like 30 minutes. Credits come up.
Yeah, you get the credits, the full credits and everything.
Rolling, full credits. And now I'm sitting here with my computer open. You know, I'm supposed to review this movie, and I'm like, they didn't tell me this was a short film. Like, I thought I was reviewing a full-length feature. And then, you know, you touch the screen and you see that there's still like an hour left. And I'm like, what the fuck is actually happening right now?
I've had a few people who I've recommended this movie to. Because, Larry, you recommended this movie to me, I think, and Lloyd. I loved it. I think I recommended it to Stu.
Yeah, I believe you're the first person who told me about it, yeah.
And Stu, you know, loved it. But I've had a few people that I've recommended it to.
Did they stop at 30-something minutes?
They stop because they're like, what the fuck is going on here? And I'm like...
I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Dude,
I was confused myself.
If I didn't scroll down you touch the screen and you can see the time bar and see that there's time left. If I didn't do that, I might have stopped it too.
Yeah.
But because I had a job to do, I had to review this. It was a review copy. I wanted to be sure. And I was like, hold on, there's still, I thought it was fucking over.
Because honestly, if you stop this movie at the credits, right? And you watch it is a movie because
it's a bad movie, but it's a movie.
Yeah. It's a low budget zombie movie where it's a filmmaker making a film about zombies. And at one point he says, oh, we're going to paint a pentagram on the roof that's supposed to coincide with this like fucking curse. And that's what you think the plot is of how the actual zombies come in. So you do get a movie there, but obviously it's what comes next is what makes it so good. Stu, what is the whole second, the middle portion about?
So the second act kicks off after the credits, after the movie ends. You get 1 month ago. So what you think is initially, at least what I thought initially, is like, all right, well, we're going to see how these weird people got into this situation.
Right. How did the zombie infestation start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you find out very quickly is there's a director who he doesn't have the passion for the job that you would think a director has. Like, shortcuts are fine, just whatever gets it done. He even only kind of jokingly says that his motto is fast, cheap, but average.
Right.
That's how he makes films. That's how he makes commercials. You see, he's doing a commercial at the beginning and he lets the guy use eye drops so he can cry. And then you find out a couple minutes in that the people from the Zombie Network come to him and explain, we want you to make a movie about people making a movie who get attacked by zombies while they're making a movie about zombies. So you find out this is a movie within a movie within a movie. Mm-hmm. It's the Shrek of movies. There are many layers to this. And he initially laughs off the idea because they're telling him it's going to be live broadcast.
One of my favorite parts. When he starts hysterically laughing and they're just looking at him.
Yeah, it's going to be a live broadcast and it's going to be one whole take. So you don't get multiple cameras. You're just one camera guy following him around. And it's a zombie movie. And yeah, the director just busts out laughing, and the studio producer and the studio head are like, no, this is what we're really trying to do. This isn't a joke. They talk him into it. He decides like, all right, he's going to do this. And he goes home and you find out his life. He has this wife who used to be an actress. He has a daughter who is much more into the artistic side of directing than he is. Because you get introduced to her by her yelling at a little girl that she's not allowed to use eye drops to cry. She needs to cry on command.
Right.
And she gets into a fight with the little girl's mom. And yeah, just stuff goes from there. You find out the daughter has a crush on this teen pop star who's going to be the star of the father's movie. So she gets infatuated with it. The mother is just a bored housewife at this point. She's not acting. She's not doing anything. So she reads the script 100 times out of boredom when she's not watching self-defense tapes.
Pum!
I love that part. And then you're introduced to the cast of characters, all the actors that are coming in to play crew members on this movie, and they all have their weird little tics. The guy who can't drink hard water because it gives him diarrhea.
And he sent an email.
He sent an email about the bathroom situation. Yeah.
I mean, he said that like several times, like about a few days.
I need to know where the toilets are.
Yeah. Well, I sent an email. Did you get it?
Did you get it? I sent an email.
Everybody's got their little. It is. You get the feeling that the other one, because he's working with the other guy on the last movie. So you get the feeling that they're kind of friends. They kind of work together a lot, but the guy's like a raging alcoholic.
Yeah, and he has real shaky hands unless he's drinking. He gets kind of the saddest part of this movie, though, where he's telling the director character, like, hey, I have to stop drinking. I'm going to lose my daughter. Right. She tried to give me one more chance, and I was going to meet up with her one day, and I just got blitzed and forgot to go. And he laughs about it, and then it's one of those things where his laughing just turns into sobbing, and then it just fades out, and you get the rest of this movie. So, like, there's this one touching moment where you're like, oh, I care about this character, and then the movie just continues being batshit insane after that.
Yeah, I think that's when it cuts to they're doing the table reads and everything, and
well, they do a good job of also nailing in the idea that the director, first of all, when you meet the director in the beginning, you're just like, this guy is a fucking bastard, right? But then in the movie part, right? you never see him outside of that in the first part. So he's slapping an actor. He's in people's faces. He basically makes the pop star girl cry. And then when you get to him,
and what I didn't mention, John, is when the again, quote unquote, real zombies come in. He's director
like throwing
is
them at the
psyched.
Actors.
Yeah, he's action and throwing the fucking. He's like, now we're getting what I fucking wanted. He's like, now that all these people's lives are at stake and that people are actually dying, he's psyched because he's getting the reactions from his actors that he always wanted. So this guy is just not only a douchebag, he's kind of a lunatic in the movie. But in Stu's part, in the second part, we see that he's really a timid, very, very timid. You can just tell right away, the way he's bowing to people, like how deeply he bows to them, and everything is sorry, and he's a very timid guy.
Whatever heart he had for his craft, he lost. He's just doing stuff which
I get the
easiest way possible, the path of least resistance.
Right, and I get the feeling that the way his daughter is maybe the way he was when he first started directing. He might have had that passion and might have, had that artistic, but now after, decades in the business and just dumb commercial after dumb commercial, he's just become another lazy, but again, he's a nice guy. You could tell that he at once had a great relationship with his daughter. He
definitely seems to miss the relationship he had with his daughter.
Picture of his daughter sitting on his shoulders that he keeps, they show that like several times.
He's drinking, he's in the closet, or it looks like a closet. He's drinking sake like out of a mason jar, like a crazy person, and looking at pictures of him and his daughter. And that's what I was going to say was that's somber too, because he just wants his little girl back. And I'm not a parent, but Larry, you'll go through it.
It hit me.
Obviously, I know people, I'm not, it's no secret. I talk to Lloyd all the time. He goes through that. He's got kids that are, like teenagers and sometimes, he's like, well, just 3 years ago, it wasn't, the way it is now. And it hits because he just wants his little girl back, and she kind of looks at him as a joke right now.
Oh yeah. She has complete contempt for him.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, she knows that he's making a new movie, but she has zero interest until her mother says, oh, hey, Co is in the movie. And then she's just like, oh, now she's interested. Before that, she had no interest at all in what her father was working on. She definitely doesn't have any respect for him, especially in an artistic sense, which, to a kid that age is probably everything.
Yeah. So in this part, the Sue's talking about kind of like what he mentioned, the alcoholic, Larry mentioned the hard water diarrhea.
The guy who is supposed to play the director, who the actual director ends up playing, and the person who's supposed to play the makeup person who his wife ends up playing in the movie, you find out they seem to be having an affair during the table reading and everything. They're very touchy-feely and talking to each other. So you get this feeling like something's going on between them.
And the cameraman, the cameraman has a female assistant who's very much also...
She wants to run the show.
She wants to run the show. She wants to be the camera person. And the cameraman, they make it very clear, has a bad back, and that this might come into play. So there's a lot of things. They lay everything out in section 2 that is going to now play out.
What you saw in section 1 possible.
Make what you saw in section 1 possible, which then I'll talk about section 3.
That is all explained in section 3. Everything, like what you're going to talk about now, will harken back to what I was saying about stuff happening off camera. And you're like, what is this? And now, when you talk about section 3, we can. Hopefully we got to begin this with a spoiler alert. Like you can't listen to this.
The whole show. You listen to the show. We're spoiler right off the bat.
Yeah, but this is different.
This is different.
Okay. You're fair.
Yeah, like this is a movie that you need to go into as blind as possible.
You're right. You're right. So well, before we go to section 3, go to Shudder. Ask Larry to borrow his copy, right? It's sitting on his shelf.
He's not using it.
He's not using it. He watched it on Shudder the other day because he didn't want to reach over. He didn't want to reach over. Lazy.
So lazy.
But if you're interested in this movie, shut right now, and then come back and finish off with us. 3, 2, 1. All right, we're going. So we get this is the day of filming, and everybody starts to come together. And back in Tokyo at the offices, the Edna Mode woman and all of her people, the executives are together watching this. And again, this is live, and this is supposed to take place in one single take. Right? They make it very clear. The camera will not stop. We have to keep going no matter what. And I think it's supposed to be 35 to 38 minutes. I think the movie is 37 minutes. I think they say it's like a half hour or so. I'll go through some of the things that happen that just kind of put what happened in the beginning in perspective. First of all, as you guys mentioned, the actor who was supposed to play the director and the woman who was supposed to play the makeup artist get into a car accident on the way in. They're not hurt, but they can't make it in.
Right.
So our director, because it's his script and he knows, he volunteers and he said he did some acting to play the director in high school. So that's how we see this guy who we knew as this nice director play this kind of dickhead. He's dressed in a Hawaiian shirt. He looks different altogether. As they're trying to figure out who could play the makeup woman, the mother is there. Now they keep making it very clear that no one likes the mother when she was an actor because she just goes too far. The director's afraid of her. He's like, you don't understand. She made my life a living hell. But before anybody could say anything, the daughter raises her hand up and says, she's your woman. And they kind of say, have you ever acted? I have acted. Not just that, I've read the script 100 times. Well, okay, you're in. So that's how we get these two in. Some of the other things that happen through the course of this filming. I think before the production started, we see the one actor who can't drink hard water get his water bottle switched with someone else's, and he drinks hard water.
One sip of water, which he immediately spits out.
He spit it out.
He spits it out. So now all of a sudden, he's going to be hit with Montezuma's revenge. Right before the production starts, and very shortly after we have the entire conversation about, a couple days later, if I'm going to lose my daughter if I drink again, the production offices send over a bottle of champagne. And the director sees the gentleman who is a little bit into the alcohol, like starting to like froth at the mouth, and he tells one of his PAs, hide that fucking thing. Well, it doesn't hide it well enough because he gets into it and he ends up blisteringly drunk. Boy, what else am I missing here? I'm trying to think of anything else that goes wrong.
Like beforehand stuff, like before filming?
Anything, yeah. And then during filming, like what starts to go wrong?
Well, the wife goes crazy.
Yeah. The wife goes crazy.
The makeup artist starts legitimately thinking everything that's happening is really happening.
Yeah. She starts to go nuts.
The guy with the bad back gets run into by the actress and falls over and can't carry the camera around anymore.
Can't carry the camera, so the young lady manages to take over. The gentleman who gets drunk, he ends up fucking basically almost ruining this whole thing. Him and the diarrhea guy really just about fuck everything up.
They almost fucking, just not to cut you off, but they almost have to go to like fucking technical problems, please stand by screen.
Right.
Once, everybody starts dropping out, it's the director's daughter who saves the day, the one who wants to be a director herself. She starts yelling at everybody in the control room, no, go to page 16, have him do this, that. And everybody looks to the producer and he's like, yeah, fine, do it. So they start making changes on the fly based on what the director's daughter is saying. And she kind of saves the whole thing.
I like when everybody's panicking and she's figuring everything out, and she goes over to the producer who's easily like our age, and she's like, "Old man."
Yeah,
I don't even think he's our age. I think he's like a solid 5 years younger
20s.
Than me.
I think he's 20s. Like that's a young dude. He's like an assistant.
Oh,
and
man.
She's like, old man, make a choice.
So we start to see things that when you watch the movie in the beginning, the first section Larry talked about.
We lose the crane too.
We lose the crane. There's supposed to be a crane shot, right? So in the first section, there's certain things that happen that as you're watching the movie, you go, that was weird. There's a scene where the two leads, you hear a thump, right?
Yeah, it's the makeup woman is talking to the two stars. It's when she's telling the fable about the fucking pentagram and the zombies and this was haunted or whatever. When she's feeding them that smell, all of a sudden there's a big bang, and everybody just looks over to the side and
like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
That's when, like, at the beginning, you're like, what the fuck is going on? But what you see, what it is the drunk dude is fucking stumbling around. So the director runs out there and kind of like grabs him and tackles him into the door, like to try to get him to shut up. But he knocks his head into the big metal door, and that's what caused the bang.
Yeah.
So you see, like, everything crazy. That to me is the genius of this movie. Once you watch the first 30 whatever minutes and you see all these what the fuck moments, like, why is this happening? Like, it's all explained in Act 3. Let's just go. This is a 3-act movie.
Oh, yeah.
The 3-act movie.
All movies have 3 acts, but this movie very distinctly.
Clear, right.
Yeah.
You can see, like, every movie.
Might as well
like
have placards that come up and say, like, end of Act 1.
Yeah, exactly. You can see, every movie is a 3-act movie for the most part, but the lines aren't always as clearly drawn as they are in this movie. So, like, everything that happens in Act 1 is finally explained to you in a hysterical way in Act 3, and to me, that's the genius of this whole movie.
The best of all the explanations is you're watching Act 1, you're watching the movie, and there's a scene where a human character, the wife, the makeup artist, gets hacked in the head with an axe.
Yeah.
And then they leave,
like
and
10
they come
minutes
back
before.
And then they leave and come back to where her body is, and she jumps up, says, like, what's that? And then falls back down. And you're like, what the hell happened there?
Yeah.
So whenever you get to the payoff there that, like, she was so into her role that she was legitimately going to kill her other actors. So they had to tilt the camera away from her, and her husband runs on and puts her in a fucking rear naked choke.
Yeah.
To make her pass out. And then she just wakes up.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's other things too that are great. Again, like Larry said with the door, there's a moment where the one guy just in the middle of the scene is getting diarrhea and he's just slinking towards the door. And they're like during the scene, everybody like, what are you doing? And he's just like, I have to go. It's coming out. But during that whole bit, because, they're panicking back at the fucking, corporate production room. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So they're like thinking about what to do. The daughter's figuring it out. But one of the great bits is in the first part where you're watching the movie, during that conversation scene between the three of them, at one point, the male star, Ko, he just says, so do you have any hobbies? And the younger girl, the pop star is like, that's a really random question because she doesn't get really that he's stalling for time. But the actress, the mother, she understands it. So she starts talking about her watching self-defense videos.
Her literal actual hobby.
But which is her literal hobby. So when you see it in the movie, you're like, oh, this is interesting. But then in the second act, in the background, while they're like talking about the script or whatever, she's actually doing that because that is part of her life she's bringing in to this movie. I think one of the most important and best things of this movie, and I tell you for sure, the first time I saw this in particular, it did it again this time, but more so the first time, is Stu mentioned the crane gets knocked over. There's a camera crane. The very last shot of this film is supposed to be, and we see it in the original, in the movie itself, is they're supposed to have a crane shot that goes over this kind of like section of the roof, and you see the final girl down below, and she's standing inside of a blood pentagram, and then that's where the credits rolled, and we see that happen. But the crane gets destroyed, so we don't know how it happens. And in what I think is one of the most heartwarming scenes in a movie in a long time that I've seen, unapologetically wonderful, is these people that have all kind of like gone through all this stuff and, had some differences, but they all pulled together. They form a human pyramid together, all while avoiding the camera because this thing is still being filmed. The director sees that one woman, I think, can't get into one position in particular.
She keeps like sliding down.
She keeps sliding down. So it's just this wonderful scene to finish off this movie. They all climb up and make this pyramid, and you get the final moment where the director is like the second to top part, and the daughter ends up on his shoulders and finishes the movie. And again, it harkens back to the picture we saw of them. And then it's just this really like kind of wonderful, they fall, the pyramid falls, and they're just all laying there, very, just like laughing and having a good time. And I felt like when I watched this movie the second time and had done some research on it, knowing that this was like a student thing almost, I felt that was very genuine and probably very realistic too. And that's one of the things about this movie that's, to me, really hits home, is that you're rooting for these people the whole time. You know, no matter what happens, you're just like, I know this movie came together because I saw it in the beginning, but how the fuck are they going to like avoid fucking this all up? And the great thing about it is, even though you saw the movie in the beginning, you still don't know if they're going to be able to do it. There's that awesome scene in the movie where the girl hides in in a garage or something, and a zombie comes but doesn't kill her, and just walks away. And you're like, oh, in any other movie, you're like, oh, it just didn't notice her, or oh, you know, whatever. But in reality, it's a crew member going out with a sign giving her a specific instruction. But because he can't kill her in the movie, he's just got to work it into the plot.
Right.
And it's just his leg that's painted, because that's all that's going to be on camera. Is just this guy's leg.
That's all they could do. I don't know.
You missed going into, because one of the big payoffs of the movie is right before all that crane stuff happens, they're talking to the producer guy about how the crane's done, and the producer guy's like, it's fine, just do it handheld, look up from the pentagram, pull it up. He's like, your regular, fast, cheap, and average will do, don't worry about it.
Right,
and we finally get the director putting his foot down and saying, like, no,
we do this my way.
It has to be this way. Like, it has to be done right. Because there's a lot of talk in this movie about, is it a TV show or is it art? And the producer's like, look, this isn't art, it's just a TV show, you just have to get it done. And that's when the director's finally like, well, no, I have to be true to my craft here and do what is in my vision.
The 3 acts complement each other wonderfully because, again, you get the final product in the first 37 minutes. You literally could watch that, and you would get a complete experience, you know. I'm not saying you'd get a great complete experience, but you did see a short film about a zombie, you know, like a zombie movie. But then you go into the final 2 acts, which are complete setup, right? Like, this is, I almost look at this like, it might sound dumb to say, but it's like a complete comedy of errors. This feels like a Three's Company episode where everything is happening and you know, Jack and Chrissy and Janet have to go around and do crazy things to make sure Mr. Furley doesn't figure this shit out. You know what I mean? Like, it works 100% on that level.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
In watching the first 30 minutes, the Act 1, did you laugh at all the first time that you watched?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, I definitely did.
I don't remember if I did.
I mean, I laugh whenever I watch bad movies, though. So it's like, I wasn't sure that I was laughing because I was supposed to be laughing, but I was laughing at the movie. Like, I mean, you can't not laugh at the lady going, Palm!
Yeah.
Right.
I would say if any of that got me, it would have been the Palm stuff the first time.
And when the wife pops back up, like I said, even not knowing what the hell was going on there,
but that's not like a funny laugh. That's just like you laugh when a boom mic fucking, you know, pops up in the corner of Dolomite. Like, you know, it's that kind of, like, you know, you just love to laugh at a fucking shitty made film. Like, it wasn't, the belly laughs don't take place until, you know, really, I mean, there's some in Act 2, but mostly Act 3, like, when they're explaining all that shit. And, you know, I got, in rewatches, now I laugh hysterically in Act 1 because I know what's going on. So that's why I was asking, because now I do.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, this was my second viewing, and yes, it was a couple years from the first viewing, but I remembered pretty much everything. So yes, it is funnier when you know what they're going up against, even though you're not seeing it. Yeah, absolutely.
So this kind of on that, my first note for this whole movie is, I'm not sure there's any other movie that I so wish every time I watch it could be the first time I watched it. And like you said, I've watched it 3 times now, and the second time and the third time, it makes the first act even more enjoyable to watch. But you already know what's happening. And that first time that my wife and I watched it, and I was just like, John said this is a really good movie, so we're going to stick this out. I don't know what the hell's going on.
So we're going to get into our ratings in a few minutes, but I did... And you know, me and Larry talk all the time. Me and Stu talk all the time. But when we do shows, we don't generally talk about our ratings ahead of time or anything. That's usually out there. But I did ask Larry a question yesterday because I felt a certain way, and he kind of agreed with me. Is that, like you just said, Stu, I'm going to give this a good rating. I enjoy the shit out of this movie. On a second viewing, it loses some of the charm. Only because, like you just said, it's wonderful to see it the first time and not know what's happening. When you know what's happening, it's still interesting as hell. It's still very good. it still comes together great, but there's that, you can't have it back. You know what I mean? You can't have that, first time you taste, a chocolate cake in your life as a baby, your brain probably explodes into fucking, the universe opens up and you go tripping through the fucking galaxy. And then, the next 100 times it's delicious, but it's not that first time. And that's true of just about everything. So I had asked Larry that. He said he felt the same way, that, the sheen comes off the apple a little bit in that, but it doesn't affect the final product. I used to think that all the time, like, less with movies, more with albums. I would be like, man, I wish I could listen to that album for a first time again. You know what I mean? Like, God, I love that album so much, but like, I know it back and forth, but like that, you'll never get that first time back. And I feel like One Cut of the Dead, I won't give it 2 number ratings, but I could almost give it 1 for your first time, and then maybe a 1/4 point lower for your second time. I won't do that. I'll give it what I feel this movie deserves first time and what it is, but I do feel that a little bit. So a couple of interesting things about this movie I did not know is that there have been 2 semi-spin-offs / sequels of this. I've
heard that. I've never seen them, but I've heard that.
Yeah. So one of them was a TV feature in 2020 or 2019, I believe, called One Cut Spin-Off in Hollywood. And it follows the director's daughter directing her first feature. And then in 2020, during the pandemic, they made one called One Cut Mission Remote. And it was a film short, but it was done remotely. Okay. So it was done remotely and kind of like The Host, I think. That kind of thing. In a week from today, 4 days from today, on May 17th, the French language remake opens in France. It's called Final Cut. So if you're a listener and out in France and you want to check out a remake of this, you're very lucky. It's coming to theaters near you. This movie won awards: Best Film, Best Director, Best Film Editing, at different shows throughout the course of the years. 31st Nikon Sports Film Awards, 61st Blue Ribbon Awards, 42nd Japan Academy Prize. So this thing has won some stuff. It won less than it was nominated. It was nominated for a fuck ton.
Oh yeah,
of stuff.
It was nominated for a bunch when you see the list.
Yeah. It's absolutely crazy.
The first time I heard of this movie was when it won Fantastic Fest in 2018. It won 2 awards. It won actually I have it here, Best Director and Best Film at Fantastic Fest, which is a huge festival. That's when it got on my radar, and then it was early 2019 when I got invited to attend What the Film Festival in New York City, and they were showing this on one of the days, but I couldn't go on that day. I think they were showing this on a Friday, and I could only go on the Saturday. So they sent me a screener of it, because they knew I couldn't go, and I was so psyched to see it.
Yeah.
Which I would have loved to have seen it actually in the theater at the film fest, and I should have. Now looking back at it, I should have gone that Friday. But oh well, what are you going to do? I'm glad I got to see it anyway. But yeah, I'd heard of it in 2018 and was just waiting, salivating to see it because it had gotten so much good press from the film festivals.
Well, here on Pint O Horrors, we've been doing it lately on the audio shows. We're going to keep doing it going forward. Favorite kill time? Kind of a bummer. There are no kills in this movie, so I guess we kind of skipped that one this time. But let's rate it. But before we rate it, real quick, go to swoproductions.com. Check out Stu's stuff, Pop-Tart Quest, all the good stuff. Just did an article the other day. I read top 10 third movies in franchises. That was very cool. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade was not on it. I don't know.
It's been too long since I've seen it. I need to rewatch it. I'm sure it probably should be. I haven't seen it since I was like 11, 12 years old.
You've chosen poorly.
Yeah. That's like I was just talking about, though. If you haven't seen it since you were 11 or 12, that is a movie that I would love to have watched again for the first time. So you're in luck, buddy. If you don't remember anything about it, you're in for a fucking
I barely
treat.
remember anything. Yeah, I remember the stuff at the end with the Grail, and the real Grail is made of wood, and I remember at the beginning you get the story of why he's afraid of snakes.
Yeah, well, and
anything
and
in between that, I have no idea what happens.
And you get River Phoenix, so...
Yep.
Yep. Huzzah.
Young Indiana Jones. And go to check out www.connecticutcultclassics.com. Check out Larry's writings at horrornewsnetwork.net and all of that good stuff. Don't forget, we have a Patreon here at The Pint, patreon.com / the Pint And also don't forget that we've officially changed our name. The new name of the podcast is The Pint. If you want to look us up on your podcatchers, you can type that in or type in The Pint, colon, what is it? A pop culture podcast. A pop culture podcast. I couldn't remember. The Pint, a pop culture podcast. Everything at this point, it's been about a week and a half since I changed everything. It seems like everything has now officially changed over. Google Podcast was taking fucking forever, and just today, it went through. Nothing's changing. The format of the show is the same. All the same. Numbering's the same. It's just a different name. So check that out. All right, let's start with Mr. Stu. Let's talk about your opinion, your ratings. Larry, what are we going to do on this one? We always do something special.
Palms.
Palms.
Palm.
All right.
We didn't just do. I got to say it. I'll wait. I'll tell you what my favorite part is. After.
Okay.
I'll get to it.
0 to 5 palms. Quarter and half scale optional. Stu, what do you give it?
I require no quarter or half scale. I've seen this movie 3 times now, and I get what you're saying about you can't have that experience back. And even I said, I wish I could see it for the first time every time. But when I watch it now, it just makes me feel so good. I love everything that's happening in this movie. You watch that first act, and like you said, you're laughing now just because you know what's coming. You're going to get the reveal showing all the crazy, wild antics stuff that's going on. And what I appreciate about this movie is Larry has been in a band. John, you've been doing podcasts and videos and interviewing people for 5 or 6 years now. I've been in writing communities. This movie is a love letter to anybody who has ever done any creative endeavor where they've had to work with anybody else and anything hasn't gone exactly according to plan. This movie is just a love letter to the creative soul. It's 5 palms. It's in my top 25 movies of all time. I love this movie. It makes me feel absolutely delightful to watch it.
All right. I gotta fucking follow that up now. I'm gonna go 4.25. I really do love this movie. It's 3 great acts. It's 3 great acts. They all come together really well. It's not too short. It feels a little short. I guess maybe on the second viewing, it felt a little more compact, like it went by faster, but I'm not complaining about that. Fuck, I watched the Batman like 3 weeks ago, and I think there's a part of my soul that's still watching the fucking Batman. Like,
I think it's almost over. It's almost.
There's like I've watched One Cut of the Dead twice.
There's like a tenth of my soul that's like on my couch, just on HBO Max, going, please stop raining in Gotham. But no, I give it 4 1/4. It's really solid. It's really well done. The acting all around is fantastic. It's just a really fun movie. I do feel like a little sheen comes off on the second time, but I still would give it a 4 1/4, I think, initially. So I'm not subtracting from that. But yeah, this is fantastic. And like I said, the ending is really feel good. Kind of a weird rock soundtrack, like a lot of weird guitar. It feels a little like, again, this is a cheaply made movie, so it feels a little bit like cut and paste, like, they put it together. But you know what? It's a $25,000 movie, so I can't really give it shit for that. You know what I mean? You know what? 25 grand. This goes to 4.5. I'm going to give it a 4.5. I'm thinking about what it took to make this. It goes up 1/4 of a point based on that alone. So this is definitely a 4.5. This is worth watching. This doesn't happen often, by the way, people. We don't change scores too much. But I give it 4.5 palms. Really, really good. I was a little disappointed to read the possible plagiarism thing, but I'm just going to put my fingers in my ear, pretend I never heard that, and just move forward. Larry.
Before we get to Larry, there was one factoid about this movie I thought was interesting that we didn't bring up. The first 37 minutes, the actual 1-act movie that they filmed, it took them 6 takes, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And I read that they actually got it in the second take, but the one of the cameramen fucked up and shut their camera off and missed half the take.
Oh, no.
I'd read that the cast actually got it in the second take.
I just read that it was 6. I didn't hear about any. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think that guy got the Gomer Pyle soap beat down that night?
100%.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? They're all students. Probably not. So I think, John, if we let you talk a little more, we can get you up to a 5.
Now,
just
keep going.
Yeah, go ahead.
Five is heavily reserved.
$25,000.
5 is heavily reserved. 4.75 is so close to a 5, but this gets a 4.5. This gets a 4.5 for sure.
Okay. All right, that's fine. I was going to say before, my favorite, and what I still laugh. I've seen it. I think I've only seen it 5 times, which is a small amount for me to see a movie. But going back to what you said, John, yeah, after the first time you see it, it loses a little something. Like Stu said, and like you alluded to, once you've seen the reason for the first act, it's not the same. But I still belly laugh every time Now goes on that rampage and she's just fucking drop kicking people. Everybody's trying to stop her, and she's either palming them or just fucking kicking them in the chest. Like, dude, she takes out everybody. Like, everybody on this fucking warpath she goes on. 5 times in, and I still have tears in my eyes every time laughing fucking watching that. I love it. This movie is just all heart. And, like you said before, you mentioned before, being a father of a girl, I am not looking forward to the days when, my daughter is like, fuck you, Dad. It's going to happen.
Right.
She's going to get to that age where I'm going to be just an annoyance, and she's not going to want to hang. Yeah, right now she comes down and hangs out with me and watches. That's going to go away. I know that. And watching this, makes me sad for that. But that's what movies are supposed to do, right? Movies are supposed to evoke emotions. And this is a very emotional film, which is a silly thing to say about a zombie movie. But it's not a zombie movie. This is a movie about emotions, really. And it's a movie about relationships, and it's a movie about love, and it's a movie about people in your family wanting to do the same things you do, and your child being what you once were, having those feelings that you did before you were so jaded by society and by life in general. It's a really, really heartfelt movie. I'm going to echo Stu and give 5 palms to One Cut of the Dead. Because even though it loses a little bit on, subsequent watches, I'm going to rate it by the first time I saw it.
Have you ever watched it with somebody who's never seen it before? Because that reinvigorates it. Oh, okay.
Jen, yeah.
Because I watched it with a friend of mine who I was like, oh, you've got to watch this movie. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. And that made me, I was just so happy. It was one of the things where I was watching him more than I was watching the movie.
Right.
I was like, you have to like this or we can't be friends.
Yeah. There's not many movies that, the first time you watch it is just so precious. To use such a weird word, but it really is. It's just, it's yeah, it really is, man. And, people can call me and Stu crazy. Me and Stu aren't generally on the same wavelength, but tonight we are. We realize that this is a goddamn flawless movie, which is really hard to say about a $25,000 independent film.
Yeah. The way it makes me feel when I watch it, and you get to the end and you get those 2 close-ups of the daughter's face and then the director's face, and it's just
so many emotions. It's so funny and so caring, so sweet. There's just so much going on, and it's very rare to get that in any movie, let alone a $25,000 movie. So, props to them. They'll never and I'm not taking anything away from them, they'll never be able to do this again. You were talking earlier about, there's been 2 sort of spin-offs. You can't recapture.
No.
It's like The Hangover, right? The first Hangover was genius. You can't recapture that. We saw that they can't recapture it in the 2 sequels. You can't. There's just some things that can't be. You can't go back to that well.
I don't necessarily like The Hangover 3, but I'll always give it credit for taking a hard
doing its own thing. Yeah.
What a hard right. It's like a fucking a crime action movie almost.
Yeah. That
the guys from The Hangover just happen to still be involved in this whole thing.
Well, they were smart enough to learn from 2 that you just can't do that again. And listen, 2 had good gags. There were some good gags in 2.
Coming in hot with the boat. Yeah. Coming in hot.
But it's just like, okay, you're doing the exact same thing. The gags are different, but it's the same exact fucking thing. And you just can't do that. Which is, I'm in it with you. Part 3 was nowhere near as good, kudos for, taking a hard turn and doing something completely different. But you just can't recapture the kind of magic that they got with One Cut of the Dead. So,
all right, real quick before we go,
there's an Owen sighting.
Owen, real quick before we go there, can you read off? I think Lloyd said he had left his rating as well.
I can.
Lloyd had to take his kid to the sock hop. He couldn't make it on for tonight, but he did give us the cast list, and he did have his rating. So I do want to get that out there.
Did Lloyd take his kid to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance?
Let's go to the hop. Oh, baby.
Are they doing the hand jive?
Yeah.
Oh, do the hand jive, baby. So Lloyd, he did not put palms because Lloyd didn't know.
He wasn't
so
here.
I will read it with the palms. Lloyd says that this is a wildly entertaining and unique film. The gags were set up and executed superbly. The middle section sags a little bit. Disagree, Lloyd, but also pays off in the third act. Resourceful and collaborative spirit of hands-on filmmaking. 4.5 palms out of 5.
All right.
Wow.
All right.
2 4.5s and 2 5s. That is pretty good.
Probably that might be. I mean, I have to go back and
it might be.
Might be the highest Scary Larry we've ever done, and it's the only one we've ever done that is truly not a horror movie. Interesting. All right. So, Stu, Larry, thank you so much. Next week, come back here for the final week of Scary Larry May, where we will be talking about the 2006 reinvigoration, I guess, of the slasher / kind of main slasher guy genre, right? So you had Jason, you had Freddy, and now we're coming into Victor Crowley land, and we are going to be talking about Hatchet. Owen, see ya.
Bye, Owen.
We are leaving!